It's time for Community Matters, a service of TCB Broadcasting in Lyons. Today's show is brought to you by Vidalia Federal Savings in Lyons and Vidalia, and by Todd Padgett Housing Center in Claxton. Now, let's find out what's going on in our community with your host, Tony Doc Warlaw.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to this edition of Community Matters. I'm your host, the Doc, and we are here, and we have beautiful weather this morning. It's brought back. Last week we had a little overcast, but this week we're back to our normal sunny day. And I'm glad to have you with us on this morning. It's a good day to be alive. Is that right, Scott?
It's a great day to be alive any day on this side of the dirt.
Well, here we are this morning, and as promised, we have in the studio with us the one and the only, the illustrious and our Honorable District Attorney, Mr. Tripp Fitzner. How you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for inviting me to be on the show. I'm very grateful to be here.
Well, good. Well, we're grateful to have you, and we thank you for getting up this morning. We know that you stay pretty busy. In fact, you're an early bird yourself.
Yes. I'm definitely not a night person. I'm much more of a morning person. That's absolutely true.
Well, that's good. Well, we have you here with us, and when we think about district attorney, several of our citizens might not truly have an understanding for what your job entails.
Yeah, that's very true. A lot of people don't know exactly what we do. One of the common misconceptions about us is that we are an investigative agency. I get a lot of times, citizens will call me up and usually want some, local official or somebody investigated, but cases don't originate with the district attorney's office.
Okay.
All of the cases that we get come from somebody else. The overwhelming majority of the time, that's going to be from law enforcement, but there is a legal procedure in place where any citizen can go to magistrate court and ask for a hearing for a warrant to be taken out. But in terms of what we do, it really covers three areas.
Okay.
One of the things is that we provide victim services. We are sort of an intermediary between the victims and the court system. That entails a lot of notification and things like that, and advocacy in court, and that's a very important part of the job. Secondly, we name things.
Okay.
So we are the ones who decide what the charges are in terms of the charging document that comes to court. So we can change, we can add to, we can detract, we can decide not to do anything.
Okay.
So that's an important function of what we do. And then thirdly, we control the spigot. And that's really, I would say, of the three, that's the hardest, because the flow of cases through the court system.
Right.
If you put too many through, then what happens is the system becomes overloaded, and because we don't have enough public defenders, there's 2 judges in our circuit, and so too many cases causes that to bog down. Too few cases, and you've got stuff languishing for years, and that was kind of the challenge, coming out of COVID, right? Is sort of finding the new balance with a bigger backlog than has ever existed before, but at the same time, not wanting to, break the system by putting more cases through, than we have. One of the things that, another sort of misconception about us is we don't sentence.
That is done simply by the court.
Yeah, it's done by the court. Now, we can make a recommendation, and then if the judge likes the recommendation, he can accept it. But if he doesn't like the recommendation, he can
deny it.
Yeah, he can deny it. But we don't sentence. I mean, those three areas are, the lion's share of what we do. To a lesser extent, we assist and advise law enforcement. But we're an independent agency. The sheriff certainly doesn't work for us, and we don't work for the sheriff, and that's true of any law enforcement agency.
All right.
It's important that we all work together because prosecution is a team sport. We work with advocacy centers, child advocacy centers. There are resources in the community when we want to get somebody with an addiction issues treatment. So we partner with a lot of organizations to try and come up with the best resolution that we can in cases.
Well, most everyone's impression or understanding of the district attorney's office is what we get on television.
Yeah,
watch all of these TV shows.
It's not like on TV. I mean, for one thing, I mean, the defense bar, for the most part, I mean, but it's true really on any side of it. I mean, we're friends or we're friendly. I mean, there's a difference between being opponents and being enemies, right? I mean, you can aggressively advocate your side of a case without it being personal. And so, I've got some really good friends who are defense attorneys. I've got some really good friends who are in law enforcement. I mean, everybody within the system has a role and a job to play, and we try to do it to the best of our abilities, but because whatever you're doing and whatever side you're on, it's a public trust, right? And so we want to represent the public, all the public, to the best of our ability, and so I think that's the goal of the overwhelming majority of people who work in the court system.
Because at the end of the day, what we all want for our communities are the bad guys off the streets.
Yeah.
Right? We want to be safe and know that we're safe.
Right.
But if a person has been charged egregiously or is innocent, we want that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't win a prize or anything for locking somebody up. I mean, it's I don't give bonuses to people when they win. I mean, so it's not like that. I have, from time to time, I hear people, thinking that the job, that it's somehow personal, and it's not. I mean, it's exactly like you said it was. We want, I've got a family and I've got kids, and wherever whichever side of the railroad tracks you live on, you have a family and you want yourself and you want your children to be able to play outside and be safe, and those are the same ideals that everybody has, right? I mean, we all want that for our families, and we all deserve it.
Absolutely. Well, this time of the year, it's a holiday season. You talked about earlier. We were talking about your busy time of the year. Is it this time of the year where a lot of people you see more activity or more cases on your docket?
No, the docket actually is kind of consistent. It's there's just sort of more extracurricular stuff this time of year. We have a 5-county circuit, so it's Candler County, Toombs County, Emmanuel County, Washington County, and Jefferson County. And in those 5 counties, they all have different court days. They all have different terms of court. Each of the judges have different court days. And so, in any given month, assuming that there's somewhere between 20 and 22, 23 work days, I mean, we may be in court somewhere 20 of those days across the 5 counties of the circuit. So, and that can be anything from like regular motion days that is just like a general calendar to calendar calls, which is where the trial calendar is held, to jury trials, to grand juries. I was in a grand jury yesterday in Candler County, and so there's always something going on.
Wow.
And that's true. I mean, if you had a map on the, or not a map, but a calendar on the wall the whole year and threw a dart at it and you hit something, we'd be in court somewhere. It's just, that's how it is, because although the circuit is predominantly rural, there's just, when you've got that many counties, there's just always something going on. And then, of course, also we do juvenile court. So,
wow.
that's a whole nother animal. So just about every day, me or one of my staff is in court somewhere.
Well, speaking of staff, I mean, you've got 5 counties, you've got juvenile court, you're working with various agencies. I mean, how big of a staff do you have? How many ADAs?
I've got 7 assistant district attorneys.
Oh, wow.
I've got 3.5 investigators. I've got one who recently retired who's kind of staying on and helping with some stuff.
Okay.
We have 4 victim advocates,
Mm-hmm.
and then secretaries and various secretaries and stuff.
Wow.
The main office, the big office, is in Swainsboro, and that predates me. And I'm don't get me wrong, I'm glad for it because Swainsboro is my home. But Emmanuel County is also the geographic center of the
Right.
circuit.
Got
I have a satellite office that's in Lyons here,
Okay.
actually, and before I was elected, that's where I was working is in the satellite office. The satellite office here handles Toombs and Candler counties, and then actually just within the last couple months, I opened another satellite office in Tennille for Washington County to serve the people up there.
Right.
And so, one big office and 2 little offices, and the 2 little offices operate almost entirely, independent from the standpoint that, police, citizens, they can walk in, they can talk to an attorney, or a victim advocate or whomever. If law enforcement needs to, drop off paperwork, they don't have to go to Swainsboro.
Oh, wow.
And that was really important
That's
to
good.
me, that we be represented in the communities that make
Really
up
good.
the Middle Circuit, because, those individuals deserve to have representation where they live. But also, there's 5 counties in the circuit, and I'd hate to go to the county commissioners, with the expense of having one everywhere. So,
Right.
we put them where the people are,
Yeah.
that most people are, and to help, the most people that we can.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Well, we were just kind of looking at your office and your team, so to speak, and anything in the horizon coming up? Anything new happening in the office?
Well, I wouldn't say new. I mean, there's a couple of initiatives that I have started since I've been elected. When I was chief assistant, I started the pretrial diversion program, and I had one. I didn't have the best one. The best one was, my chief assistant had, but I had the first, and so when I was elected and sort of had to start dealing with the responsibilities of DA, I saw kind of early on that I was not going to have time to maintain that program myself. I just not and do it justice. So I actually hired someone to run the program for me, and that's their job. I mean, they've got a caseload, and I think there's a couple hundred people in it across the circuit. So I do have a dedicated early intervention program, to try to divert some cases and work with people in the community who have resources that can meet the needs of individuals to try to get them back on, the straight and narrow, so to speak. And so that whole program has been formalized, and so. I've got a website. It's www.middleda.org, and all the forms of the program are on the site, so that anybody can come and look at it. And also, in addition to that, if there's someone in the community that has a resource that they think that could help in the program, there's a form for that too. So all that's on the website. But I've got a very, very, very good person who's working in that program for me.
Wow.
And we've been able to help a lot of people, and that's very fortunate. And then another thing that we have done is we have, I call them expungement workshops, although they're not really called expungements anymore. They're called record restrictions, but most people know what an expungement is, so that's the word that I use. But we've hit 3 of the 5 counties so far, but basically, including Toombs. We had one in Toombs several months ago, but we do it on a Saturday morning. And kind of advertise it, invite people to the courthouse, and if they have a qualifying offense, then we're able to actually expunge it in real time, there on site.
Okay.
And although we're kind of doing it, we could not do it if we did not have the support of the clerk and the sheriff and the various law enforcement agencies, because the different agencies have to be involved in the process of expunging it. But so far, I will say that, like, when we had it here, everybody was willing to help. When we had it in Washington County, everybody was willing to help, and when we had it in Emmanuel County. So we would like to get to the other 2 counties, Jefferson and Candler, next year, and then just start over. If you arrest somebody and you don't prosecute them, then you ought to at least leave them in as good a position as you found them, right? That's just, there's nothing political about that. That's just common sense. That's not why we do it. It's just, but sometimes people need help with that, and it should really. If we're looking at the law, it should be automatic now, but that doesn't always happen, and so now, of course, people can always call or come in if they want help with an expungement. I'm not telling you that it's like just we only do it one day a year or a month or whenever, but it is a good, with people that have jobs and things.
Then you have a target date.
Getting everybody together, all of the stakeholders, so that we can assist in those type of things. And then I would say the last thing, and I started it early on, and I've sort of passed it on to some other people in the office, is I called it just a community faith and leadership committee, where we go out in the community and we meet with community leaders, predominantly in the faith-based community, and see how we can work with them, because the criminal justice system is not going to change anybody's heart. We can regulate behavior. We can tell people what to do and tell people what not to do, but that's kind of the tail wagging the dog, right? If you want to effectuate real change, then what you need to do is to change people's heart, and then the behavior will follow. So I think it is important for us to, get out into the community and talk with those that are in the faith-based community, and, see what resources they have, and that kind of thing, because, they're the ones that are actually changing lives. We can regulate behavior, we can punish people, we can do things like that, but in order for a person to truly get to a place where
they'll change.
Yeah, they'll change. They need something that we can't give them. It's got to come from a higher court, so to speak,
That's excellent.
or the highest court, so to speak. So
that's excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to our district attorney, Mr. Tripp Fitzner. And don't go anywhere. I'm enjoying the conversation and all of the things, understanding and knowing many of the different things that our office has going on. So, again, we thank you, Mr. DA. We're going to take a break, and right after these messages, we'll come back, and I have a few more questions for our district attorney. Don't go anywhere.
Smarter, not harder. Here at Vidalia Federal, we are all about that phrase, as we strive to make your life easier. No more drowning in paperwork or being interrogated over the idea of buying a house. Getting a home loan should be an enjoyable, simple process, not a daunting task. This is Julia McKenzie with Vidalia Federal Savings Bank, and I am here to make the mortgage process easy and simple. Come see me at the Vidalia branch on Jackson Street to talk about your next home purchase or refinance. I look forward to serving you. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas. This is Anthony J. with Todd Paget Housing Center. And no, I'm not Santa, but we sure are slaying the competition over here in Claxton, Georgia. We build our manufactured homes more energy efficient, better built, and have the best setup than anyone else. Whether you've been naughty or nice, come by and we'll be glad to show you the Todd Paget Housing Center difference. Jiggle us at 912-732-1466 or stop your sleigh at 5260 Highway 280 West in Claxton, Georgia. Todd Paget Housing Center. All of your housing solutions under one roof.
Dorothy Davis with Southeastern Business Solutions here, specializing in website services, graphics management, and video editing. We have partnered with TCB Broadcasting to bring your sponsorship ads to life with their live on-air programs, which are recorded and archived along with your sponsorship ads as they were aired at the time of production. These programs are viewable by anyone at any time from anywhere on major social outlets like YouTube or Facebook, to include tcbbroadcasting.com's website. That's a lot more viewing potential, more than you would get than with a still banner that's only viewable by website visitors. With this kind of viewing potential, you want to make sure your ad says a lot more than a simple animated logo can say. These services are only available on tcbbroadcasting.com and the spots are limited. So reach out to your TCB Broadcasting account executive and get yours locked in as soon as possible. You can bring your own video with you, or you can email Dorothy at southeasternbusinesssolutions.com, and you and we can put our creative minds together to come up with the perfect ad that says the perfect message and gets you the perfect attention.
Welcome back to this edition of Community Matters. I'm your host, the Doc, and we are so happy and thankful that you're traveling with us on this morning. Again, we're blessed to have our district attorney with us, the one and the only Mr. Tripp Fitzner himself is in the office. He's in the building, ladies and gentlemen.
That's great to be here. I appreciate it.
And we've been talking with you this morning, and valuable information, things that I feel like we need to know as a community. One of the things I wanted to ask you, we talked about your staff. You've got 7 ADA, 3.5 investigators and other team members. But you, as we understand it, you're the only one who is elected. Is that
I am
correct?
the only one that's elected, yes, sir.
Okay.
This is the first time I ran for anything except, I think in high school I ran for student council.
Okay.
I hate to say it, almost 30 years between then and now, it was the first thing that I ever ran for. And as much as I love being DA, I dislike running for office about that much. But this is something that I always wanted to do, and I work. My entire professional career, I work towards this.
Wow.
So I'm very glad to do it, and I'm very glad to represent the people in the Middle Circuit.
Excellent. And you've been, you were elected across all 5 counties.
It is a 5-county circuit, and from the judicial side, the people share a district attorney, Superior Court judges, and a public defender's office. And the public defender's office are not elected. And then each county has positions that are unique, like the sheriff is unique to the county, the clerk of court is unique to the county. So it's really those three offices that are and I guess also a juvenile court judge that are sort of shared amongst the counties that make up the circuit.
Wow. So that's good. You talked about in the capacity of your being elected, how many of those positions are you directly responsible for filling? Do you fill the jobs of the public defender's office?
No. They're completely independent of us. I'm only responsible for my staff. Me and the attorneys and everybody who works there. We had. When I took office, there was some turnover amongst the lawyers, but all the support staff stayed on. And then since that time, I've had some retirements and we've been very blessed that those positions we've been able to fill.
Excellent.
It is very difficult to get attorneys actually to come down and want to work in South Georgia. They'd rather go to Atlanta and make the big bucks.
Wow.
So unless somebody has, I won't say all the time, but I would say most of the time, unless somebody's got roots here and family here and just wants to come back and work, it can be a challenge. And that's just not for us. That's, even for like the public defender staff and then the law clerks. I'd say that's sort of an across-the-board challenge is getting people to come down here and want to work in South Georgia.
Okay.
I've lived in the city, and I don't want to go back. I'm right where I want to be.
We got a pretty good community.
Yeah, we do. All the communities here are good, and but dealing with the traffic and the noise and all, and
I can imagine.
And quite honestly, this time of year, it used to be when you go Christmas shopping, you had to go in stores, and so living down here would be a challenge, right? But now you've got Amazon, and so I've done like 100% of my Christmas shopping online. And I didn't have to go to a store, and I wasn't inconvenienced at all, and I love it. So there's not as many disadvantages as there used to be to living in South Georgia, because you're not really dependent on going to a mall and having to deal with all that.
That's good. That's good. Well, you have what 2 or 3 more years before you have to do this again.
I'm finishing my second year, so it's a 4-year term. So I've got 1 more year, and then the year after that is when I'll have to run again.
All right. Okay. Well, how are we doing? Considering COVID and the backlog that was established from that, are we pretty well caught up in the court system?
Yeah, we're pretty well caught up. You're never really caught up because you get cases, sometimes faster than you can get rid of them, but the process is always moving. So there's always going to be some cases that are waiting on other cases to come through.
Absolutely.
And if you go somewhere like Atlanta, they have jury trials every week. They have terms of court every week. We have terms of court that are dictated by statute. Sometimes the judges will let us have extra ones, but really, how quickly we can move cases is a function of how many terms of court we have to get cases in. So the calendar, when I first started, maybe the first year, we had calendars that were pushing 100 and 100 cases. But then, going to what I said earlier, you can't overload the system. You can't. It doesn't matter how fast we do things if the rest of the system can't do things as fast.
Right.
So, we have to find that balance between, we need to get these cases moved, but we don't want to put so much on all the other stakeholders that they can't do their part.
That's good. That's good. Well, I want to close our interview this morning. Just I want to commend you and the office on what I deem as the intentionality of the office, working for the expungement and the pretrial diversion programs, trying to be proactive rather than reactive. Can you just kind of tell us, in terms of the expungement, what kinds of offenses?
Sure. Well, any arrest can be expunged that doesn't result in a conviction. So, if you have an arrest and for one reason or another the arrest wasn't prosecuted, then you're eligible to get that record restricted.
That's good.
So that's probably the biggest thing is, and that's what I meant when I said if we're not going to prosecute somebody, we ought to leave them in as good a position as we found them. There's not, there's nothing political about that. And it's
so there are no quotas.
No. It's just fair. It's just fair. So that's kind of how I see it. And then for misdemeanor offenses, I don't remember the whole list, quite honestly, but because they have accepted some things, but certain misdemeanors that did result in a conviction can be expunged as well.
Okay.
I know there's some that can't, like, and there are things like DUIs and I think family violence type things that can't, but there are some that can, up to a certain number, and I think that's 2. At least I'm not going to swear to it, but that number seems to come to mind. But there are certain misdemeanor convictions that can be, but any arrest that didn't result in a conviction can be restricted. And it doesn't mean, now when I say restricted, it doesn't mean that law enforcement can't see it, because we always can. But if you want to go, get some kind of housing, or you want to go, apply for a job, that's where that protection comes in.
All right. Well, good. Well, can you tell us a little bit about the pretrial diversion program?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So my pretrial diversion director, his name is Ray Avery. He is from Jefferson County, and I don't know how much time I have, but it's a really good story, so I'd like to tell it if I have time.
Go ahead.
I had known him for a long time, because he worked at the clerk's office in Jefferson County, and he was a really good guy. He's very conscientious. He's actually he's in the ministry in Rennes, and so I had talked to a girl in the office on Friday, and I told her, I said, if I don't start, if I don't hire somebody to run this program for me, I'm just never going to be able to do it. And as it happened that day, he left the clerk's office, and so he came available that same day. And she called me Sunday afternoon, and she said, you said this to me on Friday, and he's available.
Wow.
And so I called him that afternoon, and he was in my office, the next day, and started really almost immediately. So I know that God had a hand in that, and he works in all 5 counties, and basically what happens is when a person gets put in the program, it's after they've been arrested, but it's ideally, not always, but ideally, and most of the time, before formal charges, that is, the charging document is filed. So we send them an invitation letter into the program, and the case just gets sort of taken out of the system. He works with them over a 12-month period is what we shoot for, and it's things like getting a job. It's things like staying clean, and those, that's it. And we shoot for offenses that are, I'm not going to say always, but predominantly, because when you have a rule and the rule's completely inflexible, then it just doesn't make sense. So while we have guidelines, we do allow some flexibility, but most of the time, it's going to be a first offense. It's going to be a crime with low victim impact, and somebody who, is willing to acknowledge that, there's some problem that they need to work on. Because if a person's not ready to admit, that they need help, then you're not going to be able to help them.
Absolutely.
We did recently. And it's not a fixed thing. I mean, you have to make adjustments as you go. And I'll give you an example of one of the adjustments that we've made is, we sort of got inundated with some domestic violence cases where the victim, just doesn't want to prosecute. And, having, tried a lot of cases and having seen my staff try a lot of cases, when you go to court and you have a victim who doesn't want the defendant prosecuted, it's a challenge. But, from our standpoint, the question that we always ask when we get a domestic violence case is this going to be, the next to the last case that we get between these two, the last person being when the victim's dead. So, in cases, domestic violence cases that don't result in serious bodily injury, where a firearm wasn't used, where kids weren't involved, and where the victim, doesn't want to cooperate with a prosecution, then those cases, we found some resources in the community where they can get counseling, and they can, and it requires the agreement and participation of both sides to work. But we try to get them resources so that they can improve the relationship, so that violence is not in the relationship. Because I tell you, I tried almost back to back 2 domestic violence murder cases in Toombs County when I was chief assistant, and both of them were horrible. Both of them involved kids who were witnesses to it. Wow. And those cases are just across the board horrible. Yeah. And from a law enforcement standpoint, they're some of the most dangerous calls they get. So we have to take those cases seriously, and because sometimes that is going to require both sides to cooperate. Yeah. When we can help them now. I kind of draw the line. I was child abuse prosecutor, and when there's kids involved, that's just kind of a bridge too far for me, because we're always going to fight to protect kids no matter what. But to the extent that we are able to provide resources, in cases where it's not extreme, and where the parties will agree to it, then we try to do that. So, like I said, the thing is that nothing is really fixed. You try to look for ways to, like you said before, be proactive and to sort of innovate and do things. I mean, we've never, the stuff that I was talking about has never been done here before by any district attorney. And I'm just looking at it like, I don't. I've been in this business long enough. What I see is DAs, wait for people to come to them. Wow. And so, that's not how I want to be, and it's not how I want my staff to be. I want to go out into the community and say, hey, okay, what are the things that we can do to help y'all? Because, a lot of times people expect us to be able to fix everything and to solve the crime problem and do this. And I can tell you that.
Tell me you can't do that?
No, any politician that tells you they can do that is lying to you. You can't do anything unless the community buys in, and that's all the community. Yeah. It's not just one segment. It's not, us and them. It's everybody.
That's good stuff.
I've taken the position that anybody that wants to work with us, that wants to help and wants to make a difference, that we will work with them.
So. And we're so appreciative, and. Again, we're thankful and grateful for your intentionality in this. And the thing about it is, Mr. Diaz, we can feel your passion. And so I wanted to have you on the show because we've talked in the past, and we're just we know that you have an open door in terms of wanting to work with the community for us to help make our community better. So, again, we thank you for taking the time and being here and coming and sharing with us. Ladies and gentlemen, the website is www.middleda.org. Middleda.org. www.middleda.org. And your assistance programs are for both men and women, is that
That's right? Men, women, tall, short, fat, skinny, it doesn't matter.
Yes, it doesn't matter. So, again, just thank you for your time, and we just again appreciate all that you're doing, and
I enjoyed being here, and I really appreciate your having me.
Absolutely, and this is your first time here at Y101, and we're going to have you back again
anytime.
And so again, we appreciate that, ladies and gentlemen. This has been our district attorney, Mr. Tripp Fitzner. And what a great show, and I'm just so thankful for our community and all of our great elected officials who do a good job, and for all of the rest of us, let us continue to stay safe and really prepare ourselves to enjoy a great and safe and crime-free holiday season. So on this D-Day, this is the Doc. We'll be signing off. Thank you, Scott. Always been here, and Dorothy Davis. For all of you who want to see this show and you want to listen down again, you can go to our website tcbbroadcasting.com, tcbbroadcasting.com, and you can go down to your Community Matters segment and you can see this and listen down again. Everyone, again, we thank you for being with us. Come back again on next week. We'll do this all over again. And until then, be blessed. God bless. Have a good day.
You've been listening to Community Matters, a service of TCB Broadcasting in Lyons. Today's show was brought to you by Todd Padgett Housing Center in Claxton and by Vidalia Federal Savings in Lyons and Vidalia. Tune in again next week to find out what's going on in our community with your host, Tony Doc Warlaw, right here on Country Legends Y101 The Fox.